Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Illumineers Quest podcast, where we talk everything Lorcana, not just the co-op version of the game. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jacob.
Thanks for coming on this journey with us. Okay, it's that time. What time is it?
It's set champs time.
It's set champs time.
Prep time, at least, for set champs.
Yeah, I mean it's set champs time.
Right.
It's right around the corner. That's definitely what's on everybody's mind these days, as far as like what we're thinking about, what we're preparing for from a deck perspective, from a practice perspective, from all that perspective. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're talking set champs because it's here. We got a month long endeavor this time though.
It's a big time frame for set champs, and I mean,
is that a good thing? Well, I'll leave that for later.
Yeah.
I'll leave that for later because I'll ask now. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Good thing.
It's a good thing. Okay, we'll elaborate later then. But yeah, so that's the main topic for today. We're going to talk set champs prep. It's quite a bit different this time.
I mean, I think not just us, but everyone's more experienced in the game.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Set is I would say meta's very stable at the moment.
Yeah, I think so too. I haven't. I mean, Chicago's a couple weeks old now, almost more than a couple weeks old now. And I haven't seen really any dramatic changes on anything since then, which I don't know. We'll get into some of that too. But anyways, that's the main topic of the day. So we're definitely going to dive into everything set champs, prep, our expectations, what we're going to play, what our thoughts are, so forth and so forth. So without further ado, let's jump into it. As always, everyone, just want to take a quick second to say thank you all for the support. If you're looking to buy singles, you can do so in the description box below with our affiliate link, and it really does help support the podcast, and we appreciate everybody that uses that. Okay, so questions from listeners. We have our old good buddy Kevin. I think he might have been the first person ever to email into the show.
Wow.
If not the second. Okay, I'm looking. Kevin, sorry, the second. I have to give you the silver medal there. I just scrolled back through all the way on our inbox, all the way to the back, and you are number 2. So, good old
Kevin.
very long time friend Kevin.
All right.
So
welcome back.
And it's crazy that he said that he sent this question in, because it's exactly what we're talking about. He basically says, what are your thoughts on preparing for set championships coming up, and the unfortunate shutdown of Pixelborn and how that's going to affect everything. It's I don't want to read this verbatim because it's a very long thought out email, but we're definitely going to touch on, I think, on probably all of these points. But yeah, I mean, I think that's, one of the things we're going to touch on as well, but we can talk about that specific piece right now if you want.
About Pixelborn?
Yeah.
I mean,
you don't care because you never played.
Yeah, I mean, but I know, you know what, I do care because of the effect it's having on the community as a whole. That's why I care. It doesn't affect me personally, right, but what it does affect is Lorcana as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does that. And to kind of directly answer your question, Kevin, how does it affect the preparation? I think the biggest thing for me is that, I'm doing a whole lot less experimenting. Like last set champs, I was trying a little bit of everything to really see, what I liked the best and what I felt the most comfortable with to really dive into. I think there were 4 decks I was playing around with. I was doing Steel Song, 2 iterations of Steel Song, actually. I was doing Blue Steel and 2 iterations of Blue Steel. I was doing Red Blue. So there's 3 or 5 depending on how you look at it. And then the slightest bit of Ruby Amethyst, just because that one had a very good matchup spread, even though I've always been terrible at Ruby Amethyst, so that was never a real contention. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is just you don't have the ability to really tinker and to try to really get comfortable on new things. You really have to take what you're comfortable with and kind of run with it. So that's what I'm personally doing.
I mean, for me, I never played Pixelborn, but I always took deck lists from people that played Pixelborn. That's always, I always relied on Pixelborn in another sense.
Yeah, I mean,
so basically the meta right now, as I would say the set championship probably meta, is based off of Chicago. It's really all we have to go off of at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's another really big point that needs to be considered more than anything. I've said this a couple times. I'm sure you've heard me say this, in person, not on the podcast, but I think this is going to have a very plateauing effect. And what I mean by that is it's going to create a really high plateau for everybody to the really good teams and communities and collaborators to be on. and kind of push everyone else down that mountain. Because, up to this point, everybody's played Pixelborn, and as part of that content has shared deck lists and has really, collaborated and made all of that information available. I think now going into, the end of set 4, which, we're still a little bit away from the end of set 4, but the end of set 4, all of the championships that go with that, Dallas, Toronto, and then coming into set 5, I think a lot of the information and the changes are going to be very walled off because there's just not going to be near as much sharing of that because all of those people playing aren't going to be sharing that anymore.
Yeah, and that's just the hard truth of what we got to deal with now. Again, I don't know if this was Ravensburger's decision to.
It was Disney's. He said it was strictly Disney's.
That's what I figured. So. It's hurting. It's hurting the health of the game at the moment. I
just wish they had announced, a replacement or some sort of digital support of some sense because there's just, it's tough, and they can do it like Pokemon does it and support the game with, digital packs that you get from buying physical packs, and so it, supports the buying of the product, and honestly, it might even support the buying of physical product more because the people that want to play digital then buy the physical product too. So
yeah.
But anyways, the last question is how is it going to affect our side of this things? I never, aside from, talking about some of the stuff I've been playing or anecdotal comments here and there about my online adventures, we obviously never streamed anything or did anything along those lines. So it's really not going to affect us at all from that respect, luckily.
Mm-hmm.
So everything here is going to continue as is. Everybody that likes the show should hopefully continue to like it just the same.
It's just going to affect us as in how it's affecting the entire community, right?
Yeah.
It's just, that's...
Yeah. But yeah, we'll jump into some of this other stuff too, Kevin, and when we get into the main topic and the main subject of the day, because that is mainly what we're talking about is set champs and preparing, and obviously the Pixelborn shutdown is a big piece of that. But yeah, it is. I was definitely very, very sad. It's definitely affected my ability to test and to try out new decks and iterations, and so I'm really just trying to hone in on the current lists I'm running, which I'm not going to spoil that yet. We're going to talk about that in the main subject. So with that said,
thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, appreciate it, and we'll go ahead and do card of the week.
All right.
So next one. So with set champs, we're going to start doing what we did last time for the card of the week and talking about important cards and from any set going into set champs and kind of some of the tech cards that are going to be important that we feel are going to have an impact on your local tournaments. And so the card I chose is a Long Came Zeus.
All right, let's.
So
I think I know why you brought it up, but I want you to go ahead and.
I want to run down the stats real fast because it's a pretty normal standard card, I guess. But just to remind everybody, Along Came Zeus is the 4-cost uninkable card in steel that says deal 5 damage to any character or location. So before I move on, I want to hear why you said you think I chose this.
Is it because of Queen's Castle?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah. So, Along Came Zeus, I think, has become even more important of a tool because of locations. A lot of these control decks that you're seeing being ran, meaning Ruby Sapphire and Sapphire Steel, have been very much affected by the kind of the running around of Queen's Castle. The Ruby Amethyst, we've talked about this before, has undergone a facelift, and it has come out an aggro deck now.
True.
And so, the Queen's Castle turn 4 aggro play is very hard to deal with if you're trying to ramp and gather resources, especially after a Flynn Rider that might have gotten 3 or 6 lore off of having a more strong character on board. And so, Along Came Zeus is a fantastic card because it is very dynamic in the sense of it can take off a big threat on the board, or it can put enough damage onto a castle where basically anything else can take said castle out. So from that respect, that's why I think it's really important. Currently running it as a 3 of in my Sapphire Steel deck that I've been testing. And yeah, I think it's one of the more important tools to deal with those pesky locations and your Beast Tragic Heroes, which you still see from time to time. Your Robin Hoods, your Ursula, Deceiver of Alls, Tamatoas. It's not fantastic against Tamatoa, but it still puts enough damage where you still have a lot of things that can take it out. yeah, it's just one of those very solid, swift removal tools that takes out just about any card.
I think it's also worth mentioning because it's played in probably the top 2 decks, arguably, in the game by Sapphire Steel and Emerald Steel, I think.
I think Emerald Steel's fallen to 3rd, if you ask me, but...
Oh, that's a little bit of a hot take in my opinion.
That's just because... Never mind, we'll get to that in a minute.
I know what you're going to say, we'll get to that.
It's number 3, it's definitely number 3, but...
I think it's number 2, I mean...
Would you like to rehash what happened in our matchup this week at Locals for move on to what's on our mind? Quick league recap.
I agree that your Sapphire Steel is number 1, so I'm agreeing that it is still better. But
I'll play you with Ruby Sapphire right now and show you who's better. No, so anyway, we're
game on.
We're getting off subject here. Yeah, I think it's a very good card. 5 damage is enough to take out just about anything, and the damage on the locations is becoming increasingly important for those later game decks that have to deal with locations as well. Which Queen's Castle is definitely starting to be very, very pesky these days, and in our local meta especially, I've seen more and more people starting to switch that route, and that kind of scares me. So
I mean, so you need it. All reliable, basically.
Yep, which that is one of the most reliable cards in the game. If you're going to get value from it, you use it, it's going to take something out, it's going to get value. So,
yep.
So with that said, news, what's on our mind? Quick league recap. I mean, we have to tell the story because I genuinely don't remember saying that. So here's how I'll tell my perspective of the story, and you can tell your perspective of the story because it is really funny. So, was it round 3? Was my round 3?
So you said...
Hold on. Was it our round 3? Was it the 3rd games that we played? Or was it the 2nd game that we played? Or like
what part are you... Because it happened in multiple...
No. I mean like of the rounds. Like we played 3 matches that night. It was the round 3, right? Okay. So Jake and I played each other the last round of League Night this week. And when we did that, I sat down and we started getting ready to play and shuffling the decks and blah, blah, blah. And... Jake started smack talking me, and I don't remember exactly what you said, but it was something along. Oh no, it wasn't. He beat me the first game, so he beat me the first game. I could not find any draw cards I needed, and he just, anytime you can't find any draw and you run out of resources, that tends to happen. And so after the first round, Jake said, well, "I thought you were gonna steamroll me," and started smack talking after the first round, and then I said, "Okay, buckle up, kid, because I'm about to 2-0 you now." And sure enough, I came back and won both of the next games. And yeah, so I ended up 2-1ing because he beat me on the first one, but I had 2-0 those last 2 games. And that's my recollection of the bench, is that he started smack talking after one win and got a little cocky, and then I had to put him in his place. His recollection is very different. So I think the context is important because I genuinely don't remember this. So give your side of the story.
So the reason I even brought up my side of the story is he goes over to my dad, who also plays, and another member of our league, Seth, and says, your son was smack talking me, and I had to put him in his place, and my dad was like, Jacob, what are you doing? You can't, why are you being so rude? And I said, because this dude sat down in front of me on the table, and said, I'm going to stomp you, kid. and started smack talking in the beginning. So once I beat him the first game, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I thought you said you were going to stomp me, 2-0 me, dude.
And if that's the case, then it's definitely well deserved. I'll be honest, have I ever said I'm going to stomp like that phrase before? I don't think I've ever said that, in general, ever.
It was either I'm going to roll through you or I'm going to stomp you.
Okay, well, see, now your story's changing.
It's one of the... I know it was... The only reason I reacted that way is because you did I'm gonna...
That's
ready
fair.
To get steamrolled or something.
And again, I concede the chances of me having said this are very high. I'm not trying to deny that it happened at this point, because chances are it probably did, to be fair. But I just thought it was funny because we all had a really good laugh after the fact, and I was like, yeah, if that's the case, then it was deserved trash talk at that point. But anyways, yeah, it was a fun league night. So
we got called the old married couple.
We did
a few times.
Yeah, but I feel like when we do a podcast together and we play as much as we do and we bicker as much as we do, I mean that's a fair assessment as well.
Yeah.
So But yeah, so that's the league story from the week. It was a fun night. Yeah.
League night. Yeah.
Okay, so going from league night to league championship, set championship. Okay,
Rough
so
transition, but you made it.
I mean, it fits.
It fits.
It fits. Okay, I purposely left out a ton of details there. I mean, I feel like it's kind of already been spoiled, but we'll go ahead and talk about what we're playing, so we don't have to quietly step around what's going on and not say it before we want to spoil it. But take it away.
I'm playing Emerald Steel Bucky.
Still hasn't changed. You've been on that the whole time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since the beginning.
No, you weren't on Bucky at first. And I told you, because you were on Merfolk Flynn still, and I said that's a bad idea.
No. So I went. So I did. I was Bucky the entire time, but I added in Merfolk Flynn for a little bit in the middle.
Okay.
Because I was straight Bucky in the beginning. Thought I would because I found it a little awkward at first, so I brought back Merfolk Flynn. Didn't work out. Now your standard Bucky.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I thought that was at the beginning, but regardless, so yeah, you've been on Bucky the whole time. What's your fancy to that? Which I hope you say the answer I want you to, because you just said this before we started, and so I hope you give the same answer. Why are you hedging towards Emerald Steel?
I have discovered through Lorcana and other games, strategy games that I played, that I just like the toxic archetypes. That's
God.
I don't know why. Like at Marvel Snap, I play a mill deck, and if you play Marvel Snap, it's the most toxic deck of the game right now. And I don't know. I get pure joy from it.
I shouldn't be surprised by this, because
I'm a villain guy.
From the people that have listened for a while now and have been with us on this journey for most of the history of the podcast will know that Jake is a villain sympathizer and he loves the villains.
And I don't think
no, let me finish here. Nice try. Don't be trying to make excuses here this away. He's a villain guy. He loves the villains. He's a villain sympathizer, and so it fits perfectly that he would play the really annoying, that everybody gets fed up with deck, because he's a villain guy, and so he's embracing the villain role apparently.
I don't know what this says about my personality. I don't think I have a toxic personality, but
No, I don't think so either, like in general, but in this case, clearly, like when it comes to competition or some sort of, competing against other people, it's like I want to make them have a bad time, because I can't think of any other reason to play that deck. I mean, it's a good deck. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we talked about in the meta report. There's basically 4 decks, and that still pretty much holds true to this day. We'll do a quick recap of that one too at some point too. But so you're 100% on the Bucky version. Are there any tweaks that you think may come between now and set champs?
I think I might get a little bit more heavy into item removal, since it looks like that is our Sapphire, Steel, Ruby, Sapphire pretty heavy in our local meta.
You playing Aladdin?
Playing Aladdin.
Okay, well then there's your item removal.
Might throw in a few other tools, just a few extra to help out. But.
You got your Aladdins. One more, you can take out an item per turn.
No, I know that, but I mean maybe some on play item removal.
Rise the Titans?
I was thinking more Finding Platinum. That's what I was thinking. But
then more Uninkables.
I know. I'm only running 10 at the moment, but
yeah, but it's not a heavy draw deck either. I would advise against the Finding Platinum. I think there are it has been played against.
I'm thinking 1 of 2 of just as a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one later. I don't think that's a very good idea, but
okay.
We'll see how that one goes. Me, on the other hand, as per usual, have not finalized anything yet.
Yep.
I am on the ramp Sapphire side, though. We've dumpstered Emerald and Sapphire for long enough that they finally decided to get amazing.
and
Sapphire,
I would say, you were definitely more of the Emerald guy. I wasn't necessarily a Sapphire guy, but I was.
Well, hold on. No, so I've been meaning to say this for a while now too, and this is, I guess, the perfect scenario. But at some point, we're gonna go back to like an episode and do like all of our cold takes and like rate them or something. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I think in the very first episode we said like Ink Ramp was insane.
We did,
and I was a Sapphire guy. Like it was maybe for like 45 minutes. Yeah. But I was a Sapphire guy until I figured out, well, you can't outdraw the ramp, and so then it doesn't mean anything. Then comes along Flaversham,
yeah,
and ramp is better than ever.
Yep.
So I'm kind of like saying I'm going back to my roots, even though those roots grew for like 45 minutes.
So, I talked about it before, but on the Lorcana Discord, my emblem is emerald. What would yours be? Would it be sapphire?
Yeah, I think it's my favorite now. Not strictly because of Flaversham. I think Bell was like my first favorite card.
Sure.
I know Heroic Outlaw I talk about all the time, and I still like hang my hat on Heroic Outlaw.
Which we're getting a deck box.
That some point will be that some point will be insane. But yeah, Bell I love. I mean, obviously Flaversham, Popsicle. I just love the dynamicness of that. You have direct removal with like Let It Go, even though it's a little bit comes with strings attached going into your Inkwell versus being banished. But yeah, I think in general, Tamato I think has an argument for being the best card in the game right now.
That's completely fair.
So yeah, I think Sapphire is definitely the way to go for me. But that said, going back to the initial start I had on this, it's either Ruby Sapphire or Sapphire Steel. I can't decide, and a lot of that decision is going to be finalized very late based on the meta I think we're going to see. The Ruby Amethyst, we already talked about Queen's Castle, Along Came Zeus. The Ruby Amethyst aggro Flynn deck scares the pants off me with Sapphire or Ruby Sapphire, because if you go turn 2 Flynn, turn 3 Sisu, turn 4 Castle, lose the game. That's how that goes. Mm-hmm. Like that's just how it goes into that matchup. And so I don't, that's why I played Steel Song last set champs, is because I don't feel like it really had like an auto lose. I mean, obviously Ruby Sapphire is one of those where it's like, yeah, you pretty much lose. But I just felt like it had a really good matchup spread into basically everything else. And that's, kind of, so on the Ruby Sapphire side, I really don't want to go into something where I know that you have like an uphill battle into a given matchup that I know that there's at least 2 or 3 good players playing.
Yeah, I think that's worth mentioning too, is what we played in past set championships.
Yeah. So, if you're newer to the podcast, last time I played Sapphire Steel the first 2, and then just didn't feel the consistency, and so switched to Steel Song.
And obviously we're talking about set 3 meta, because it was the first set championships. Yeah. I was playing your standard tempo
bounce deck,
Emerald Amethyst. Yep. Yeah,
which unfortunately has kind of been pushed out.
Yeah, but when you have strength-based removal on characters and early actions, then your low stat aggro decks are going to take a hit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's very true. And in today's world, which again, quick recap of the meta report, is still very relevant. You have basically the 4 big bads, or the Mount Rushmore currently of Lorcana, being Ruby Sapphire, Sapphire Steel, Emerald Steel, and Ruby Amethyst. Mm-hmm. Those are the 4 big ones. Those are what you have to look out for as you're preparing for your set championships. If you want to be really competitive and want to have a good matchup spread against just about anything you come across, I would highly recommend one of those 4. Those are the 4 to stick to at this point in time. If you look at the spread against Chicago and those 4 decks, it was like 50 of the 64, or even I think it may have even been like 52 of the 64 decks that made the top cut.
However, the number 1 seed Zach Bivens was playing Amber Steel Song, which still blows my mind.
Yeah,
but
he's just
he's Zach Bivens.
He's just a freak though, and in a very good way. Like he just does things that nobody else can do, and bucks the trend. But so anyways, it's got to be one of those 4. And so we're picking, we've got a spread across 3 of those 4, being, me being both of the Sapphire decks, trying to figure which one out, and you being the Emerald deck. But,
my brother also plays Sapphire Steel. Dad plays Ruby Amethyst. I play Emerald Steel. So if you were to choose Ruby Sapphire, we would have the
big 4.
The big 4 in our...
covered. But, so getting back to, like, the initial... So, no, we've got that covered, I guess. We've talked about, like, what we're playing and everything. So, getting back to, like, the initial question at hand... well, hold on. Tyler, Jake's brother, just texted us and said he bought a booster, is what he said. Does that mean he bought a pack, or does that mean he bought a box?
I'm assuming that means a box.
Okay. Well, he just texted us, so breaking news: he got an Enchanted Ursula. Is that 4 that you guys have got this set?
That's 5. That's 3rd of his.
He's gotten 3 Enchanted.
My dad's got 2, both from Troves. My brother's
oh my god, that's just insanity.
My brother's got 2 from Troves, 2 from booster boxes.
Yeah. I'm sick and tired of his luck.
Or no, he's got 3.
His luck is just so annoying.
Yeah.
And and I definitely feel for you at this point since you still haven't gotten one.
It's okay. I mean, it's how it is. We've done other cards long enough to where I know where my place is on the spectrum. So
below Tyler, and at this point below James as well, the newest member of the Lorcana crew.
That's fair.
He got another one. He got a queen.
Nice.
Enchanted.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah.
It looks nice.
Queen, Ana, Diablo. Like, he just gets them all too. No, I don't think he got a Diablo. I think he got 3 though. Anyways, doesn't matter. Back to the subject.
What? No, what did he get? Hold on. He got.
It was cool. I know he got Queen and Ana for sure. But yeah, so preparing. The changes are very much different this time because you can't put in as many reps as you want, and so you have to be very strategic about the way you go about it. However, I did hear this the other day, and I want to get your take on it. Taking the top 4 cards that you want to have in your starting hand and starting with those cards and playing it out like as best as possible. Because if you play and you just steamroll everyone, it's like, okay, I'm in a good spot here. I know if I get the cards I need, I'm going to do a really good job. On the flip side, if you have the cards you need and you get steamrolled, then it's like, okay, clearly I'm doing something wrong here, or the deck's not what I want it to be. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're taking a list that you've seen online from, you know, some of these championship winning decks or some of the, you know, very high performing decks at the DLC in Chicago, whatever the case might be, and you're not having success with it, that's one of the ones where it's like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Where am I going wrong with my lines? What am I inking weird? You know, am I not doing, you know, playing in the right sequencing? Whatever the case might be. But if you're trying to brew your own thing and it's not working, that's where you got to start, you know, evaluating the deck list. So I thought that was a really cool idea.
No, I think for sure. I think that's something always good to have in mind. I mean, obviously for my deck, it's basically Bucky and then starting hand or bust.
Bucky turn 2, yep.
I mean, if I don't have Bucky in that starting 7 before my mulligan, except Pegasus, I'll basically trash everything.
Why would you keep Pegasus?
Just because of a 1-drop. And my best 1-drop, arguably.
Does not having Pegasus affect you more than not having Bucky?
I see your point. I get uncomfortable and I don't have a 1-drop. That's just a personal comfortability thing.
Okay, do you want to be comfortable or do you want to win your matches?
I'm not going to win my match if I'm not comfortable.
That's fair, I guess. But you have to be comfortable then playing.
I understand.
I understand. It's
only Pegasus.
It's not a traditional aggro deck. It's an aggro deck in the sense that you can go really wide really fast because you're starving your opponent of resources if you get a Bucky.
I understand. I totally understand. I just need that Pegasus turn 1. That's
okay. We need to change it. We need to change that somehow.
I understand.
But yeah, no, I thought that was a very strong opinion on how to kind of test things because it can put you into situations that might not always come up. And so, you know, you can be very strategic in the way that you're playing the game versus, you know, putting yourself into situations that might not always be there. You know, if you played 10 games, you might, you know, find 3 of the 5 scenarios that might come up in the early game and not get to those other ones. And then if you were to ever, you know, happen upon that scenario in a real game, you may not necessarily know what to do. So if you think of all the different early game lines that you might have and force your opening hands into those decisions, that can help you expedite your training very rapidly because you can automatically go into those early game situations that you're trying to practice for.
Yep.
So I like that a lot. Other than that, you know, I've been going to quite a few more league nights. You know, there's a couple local leagues that we go to. There's our one that we always attend, and then a couple other ones that I've been going to on and off now. I've probably been to, you know, almost 2 a week now, given this, just to get in as many reps as possible, trying to practice because that's the way I have to do it now. But yeah, I mean, you know, that's ultimately what it comes down to is practicing, and to your point, getting comfortable with what you're playing and making sure that you know what the expectations are of the deck.
I mean, I'm hoping, because I did not get a Stitch last set championship, so I need...
You also only played in 1.
2.
2, that's right. With only the first weekend, I guess, is what I was thinking.
I'm hoping for some redemption. I mean...
Yeah, I need us all to get one. I need you to get one. I need Michael to get one.
I want the playmat more than anything, to be completely honest.
I feel like that's the answer for most people now.
Yeah, I mean this one.
I'm still a card guy. I still want the card first.
That's fair.
But
if I had to choose one, I'd rather get the playmat.
Yeah, I'd rather get the playmat too because that means I get the card as well.
No, I'm saying like if top 4 was either or, I would choose the playmat.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, I would definitely choose card, but I think the answer for most people these days is playmat. So, but yeah, I think that the other thing to consider with this is try to get as many games in across a bunch of different deck types. So, meaning your opponent's playing a bunch of different deck types. I know that you and your brother and your dad play a bunch, but you guys always play the same thing, and so it's hard to get a very, strong variation of what's going on.
Which we're playing top 3 decks. We're playing 3 decks of the top 4, so it's not. Oh, it's not a negative thing. It's just you're right. There's not a lot of variation or variety.
Yeah. I think the variety. So what I mean by that is like if you're going to your league nights, I know some leagues are a little bit more competitive and they match you on melee and you have to go play your opponent, whatever. And if that's the case, then there's nothing really you can do to avoid it. But like at our league, we kind of just match ourselves and play whoever. And if that's the case for your league, try to play new people. Don't play the same opponents every time. Try to play different deck types. Try to play different people, even if they are on the same deck, so that you can get their variations and their different play styles to understand how those different lines might work. So you just got to get in as many different views to go against to again understand how you're going to respond in those type of scenarios.
One thing I learned from early on playing Lorcana is if there's someone at your local league that you're competitively scared of, like
play that person.
Play that person as much as you
that's
can.
a very, very. I mean, that's honestly might be the best tip we can give. The first week, and I know I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again for anybody new that's listening. The first week at league ever, I got paired my first game against the best player, and he wiped the floor with me, and I learned more in that one game than I have with every game combined since then.
And that's the best part too. If they're willing to share, then learn and listen and learn.
Yeah.
I mean, ask them questions if they're willing.
Which I think most of my experience from everybody I've seen, even online interactions, have all been that people are very willing to teach and learn. So don't be afraid. You gotta jump in there and you gotta ask questions and you gotta try to improve because that's the only way to get into a competitive position in this.
And also, like if you get home from league, it's like, well, I went 0-3, but did you play the 3 best guys at your league?
Did you learn?
Did you learn?
Like if you're learning, then it's okay because how many games did I win the entire first league?
It was bad.
I remember at the beginning of the year, my goal was to win all of the games in one league night. Remember that? Mm-hmm. It was, I want to win an entire night's league of games because that hadn't happened before. I had never won all my games in one league night. Like going into like halfway through set 2.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. And so, yeah, it's something to say that like all of that adversity and all that learning like really got us to where we are because we played a ton of good people and we learned a lot. And so I know I'm hammering that one home, but that's a very, very good point is, if there's somebody at the top, fight them, try to figure out why they're so much better.
And ask ask for suggestions and, if it's not, maybe ask where they're looking for their deck lists and their strategies and go there. If it's not from them directly.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point to bring up too. I think we've said this a few times, but I think probably my favorite Lorcana website these days is inkdex.com. Mm-hmm. If you're familiar with it, then you can tune this out for the next couple seconds. But Inkdex, it's plural. It's inkdecks.com, and basically what it is it's a review of all of the tournaments and all of the logs that the people have sent in for all of the different events that have happened. And it takes stuff from the Lorcana challenges. It takes stuff from other local set championships. And so you can look at all the decks that have been submitted and all the lists and try to find common themes about what's winning, what's not. Try to find common themes about different tech cards or, other ways that people have paired up their decks. But yeah, that's another really, really, really strong resource because you can start to build, again, common practices that you see people playing, common themes across the cards that they're taking in and things like that. So that helps a ton too to be able to understand what's working on the larger landscape and how you can take that to your to your local tournaments. And then my last big set of advice, and I've kind of talked about this already, but understanding the local meta. If you have a very, very heavy, Ruby Amethyst meta and you want to bring Ruby Sapphire, that might not be the best plan. It's if there's a couple players, that's probably okay because you probably not going to get them round 1 and 2 and be in a really bad spot. But if that they're playing half the meta is Sapphire Steel, or half of the meta is Ruby Amethyst, or half of the meta is Sapphire Ruby or Ruby Sapphire, then that can also help to sway your decisions because you can understand the matchups and understand like what works good against certain decks and what doesn't work good and try to play into those weaknesses.
Also keep in mind that this is a 4-weekend set championship, so the decks people are playing could vary from weekend to weekend.
I would imagine that they definitely change. Maybe not from like the first weekend to the second weekend, but definitely from like the second weekend to the third weekend and to the fourth weekend. First
those
weekend,
people that haven't got their Ursulas are going to be gunning for every shot they can get to get that Ursula.
And not only that, but first weekend maybe they get close, but they don't get one. So it's like, okay, I've got the right deck. I just need to do a little bit better. Maybe it doesn't work again, and so they switch. Maybe it does work, and they say, I want to win on something else, and so they switch. And so I think there will definitely be variability. But yeah, with we talked about this a little bit too. But with it being a month long now, I definitely see a lot of changes from week to week. So last time it was over like a 10-day frame, all stacked into 2 weekends. Now it's across all the weekends of an entire month. Yeah. So if you weren't aware of that, I would imagine you can start looking on Melee for your local spots and to see if they're on there for registration yet, because probably 85 to 90% of all of the local tournaments to us are on there now. And so, we can see like where we're going to go and where we're going to play and how many people are signed up and that sort of thing. So we've got a good idea of where we're going to play and what we're going to do. But I think, again, that's what I initially said. I was like, I'm between Ruby Sapphire and between Sapphire Steel. I'm going to read the meta and understand what other people are playing and try to read that as that changes throughout the weeks and pick the best deck based on what I think everybody else is going to be running.
Fair. I mean, I think that's the ideal mindset.
Yeah, if you can be flexible, I think that comes with
and sometimes you have no choice but to go with the one deck, like me personally.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have all the cards, that obviously is one thing. If you're not an expert across multiple disciplines of the game, that's also another thing. And to be quite honest, that's what probably worries me the most. Is I would say I'm an average Sapphire Steel player. I just think it has the best matchup spread against all the top decks currently. And so I think that's one of the ones to like really dive in and learn. And so I've been forcing myself to play it for the past couple weeks to try to get in as many reps as I can and feel more confident on it. But understand the meta, understand your comfortability on different decks. And, that helps you, learn how other players might play on it as well. So it just gives you more perspective into all of those different matchups.
Which I think is a little different with what we said about going into Lorcana Challenge. Like, Lorcana Challenge, just go with what you're best at. But obviously when it's at championships and kind of the local meta.
And the players.
And
there's, some people listening might be in very small areas and there might be 10 or 12 people. And at that point, it's, you very much tech against those people. If you're going to a set championship where you don't know everybody, then maybe you pick on what you're most confident on or what you're most comfortable with. Getting into the challenges, the meta is going to be so far wide open with everybody playing everything that you gotta pick what you're confident with and what you're most comfortable on. But for set champs, you can definitely tech in to what everyone's doing and try to counter the meta because you have that opportunity to do so because you play the same people over and over, and so you should be pretty understanding of what you're going to come up against in those tournaments.
Yeah, like if there's the first 2 weeks there's a card that you weren't expecting and it's running rampant, then run text for it, run counters, like
yep.
Even if it's not, you look up meta deck list and it doesn't show up, but if it's running rampant and can't deal with it, still run counters for it, still the overall meta of the game really goes out the window when it's set championships. It's all local meta.
Yeah, because it's very, 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 very tight-knit communities that are playing. Yeah. Any other final thoughts that you think you have? I think I covered all of my main points, but it's, it boils down to find a deck you're comfortable on, get as many reps as you can against a wide variety of opponents so that you can play into as many matchups as possible. If you have like a testing partner, that is obviously the most ideal solution. Mulligan your opening hands on purpose to certain scenarios that you want to play into so that you can practice into all those given scenarios. Learn the local meta and like kind of tech against the local meta, and then understand how things change over the course of a month, because things will probably very most likely change over the course of that month. So,
and I'll roll it back to this real quick, but for my final point, I have now realized playing Bucky that how uncomfortable I was playing tempo in set 3. I was very uncomfortable playing that deck. I wasn't comfortable at all. I felt I was always on my back foot. So I would say find the deck you are comfortable with, even if it's not the absolute best matchups. Still find what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, you have to I would say what you understand how to play.
Understand how to play and comfortable.
Yeah, I think
it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that kind of goes hand in hand. I definitely agree with you. I will say, though, that the 4 best decks this set are head and shoulders above the rest.
I was going to say, and preferably, if one of those is top 4, then you're in good shape.
This is a very strange one because, if you were with us for the set champs last time in the first challenge, we were very much in the boat of, like, this is a wide open meta and play what you're comfortable. Very hard truths here. If you in an ideal world, you're playing one of those top 4 decks because that's going to give you the best chance.
However, if you're Zach Bivens with Steel Song, then go ahead.
Yeah, it obviously can happen. I mean, there were people that made it into the top 64, and Bivens made it to the top 32 with a very, very off meta deck, and so it's very possible. But again, you have to be very, very understanding of those matchups and how to play it. Yep. So, ideally, stick with the top 4. If you don't have the cards or you don't have the deck list built out to do that, then find what you're most comfortable on and just try to hammer people home with something that they don't see coming. I think that pretty much covers all of the points I wanted to make for this one, because it is a very different scenario on how to test without any potential online play. But very strategic testing. Test against as many people as you can, and just get as many reps in. So
I agree. Yeah, I mean, we're getting there. It's exciting. Times are ramping up. It's full competition time. It's time to get ready.
Yeah, we will definitely be keeping everyone up to speed with our local set championship occurrences and who's getting playmats and who's getting Ursulas and all of the above. And then obviously, in the middle of this, we're going, like everyone locally is going to Fort Worth for the challenge. So we will obviously be updating everyone there as well on what's going on. So it's about to be a crazy month of Lorcana.
I mean, it's exciting. It really is. I mean,
it's insane. It's crazy. Like at the end of last set champs, I was like, I am beat. Yeah. But my batteries are fully recharged and I am revved, ready to go.
I mean, we gotta. I think we're calling basically next month competition month for Lorcana.
It should be
for us, at least locally. Which set championships? I know not everyone's going to Fort Worth, but for us it is. So, I mean, I'm ready to bring something home from somewhere. If it's set championship, if it's challenge.
Yeah, I'm ready to bring something home from the challenge too. A little golden nugget home.
Oh, really?
I mean, I'm ready. Am I going to do that? No, probably not. But I'm ready to. I'm ready.
My highest expectations are Cinderella. That's my highest expectation.
I mean, that's an expectation still. That's a high one. That's top 2%, top 1.5% of players. So.
Fair.
But anyways, I think that wraps it up for today. Hopefully this at least gives some people a few pointers on like how to think about things or how to approach this, because this is a very different one for anybody that did play online previously. But just get your reps in, try to get as much practice and thought. Even if you can't practice, at least think through the plays, do a lot of internal, I think back to like football players, thinking through their plays and their routes and their jobs and roles, and you can kind of do the same thing here, and I do that way too much because I can't stop thinking about the game because I'm not obsessed. But anyways, I digress. Everyone, appreciate the support as always. Wish everyone the best of luck in their set championships. Hope to have a ton of Ursula playmats and Ursula cards within the Illumineers Quest community, and we will catch you guys next time.
All right, bye guys.